Hello folks, it's Scott Wilson here, and welcome to the final part of this section on creating our enemies for our dual stick shooter game. In this one we're now going to set up a big mean mad boss enemy, which is essentially going to be another cube, but he's going to have a lot more health, so you have to shoot him a lot more to stop him. But to balance that out, we're actually going to make this enemy a bit slower, and we're going to change his color as well. So let's get started. What we're going to do is we're really just going to use the enemy that we've already made and use him as a base to work on. Now before we do that, I do want to do one little bug fix for you, and that's to do with because in the last one we kind of solved the way triggers worked, or really I solved how it worked, because this is still a learning process even for myself, because there's that many functions inside this. So what I just want to do is in my uScript editor, I just press Control and U. It's going to full screen this, and make sure you're inside the enemy script. If you're not, just double click on enemy script to open that up, please. And what we're going to do is under this trigger events, this is the logic that controls the whenever an enemy hits the player, it will deduct. If an enemy hits a player, so to speak, then it will deduct 1 player health, and it'll only be if it enters the player. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to move this part of the code across a wee bit, and we're going to use game object tag. So we're going to get game objects by tag, game object has tag. Just going to delete this wire out. I'm going to move this up, and so on trigger enter, we're going to see if the game object that I'm just going to delete this guy out, and I'm going to right click add a variable called game object. So this is the enemy, this is the owner, and on trigger event we find out what it was triggered by. So essentially this is the player. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare this game object, and we're going to see if it has indeed got a tag called player. So we're just going to add a variable, and if you haven't guessed already, we're going to add a string, and we're going to type in player. The reason why we're typing in player is because our player has the tag called player. So we're just making sure that the enemy has indeed hit a game object which has a tag called player. So I'm just going to change the value to player. It is case sensitive. And I'm just going to hook up tag, and then when it has all those tags, then we'll subtract the player health. So I'm going to save this, and I'm just going to double check this works. And I'm going to show you a neat little trick that because we have the player as a exposed variable, we're just going to come out of that. We can actually click on our player, and under the player script, if you just expand it and expose variables, we will actually see the player health's variable exposed in the editor, which is actually really handy for kind of live debugging and testing. So we click play with player health still up there. Every time we get health deducted, this number should actually change. So I'm just going to find an enemy here. There's one kicking around somewhere. Here, little enemy. So here he is. He just hit me. So now you'll see the player health has went to 4. It's going to hit me again. It's went to 3, and it only happens once because it's an enter event, enter trigger. I'm gonna shoot a few guys here. Oh, my game's just loading. There we go. Got hit again. Got 2 health. Got 1 health. Gonna shoot him, and then gonna get hit once more, and our game should restart, like so. So now we've just fixed that. Okay, so quick little bug fix. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into resources, and we're going to go to the enemy prefab, and we're just going to right click and duplicate this enemy. So with the enemy selected, I'm going to press Control and D for duplicate, and this is now giving us a brand new, or sorry, not a brand new prefab, but a copy of our enemy. But instead of enemy, we're going to call this boss, like so. It's still going to have the tag of enemy because it is technically still an enemy, and it means that our bullets will still work. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just open up uScript, Control and U, and inside the enemy script we're just going to click File and Save As. We're just going to save out a copy of this script, but we're going to call it boss script, and click Save. Assign graph to master game object. We definitely do not want to do this. So we're going to click on no. And that's now going to compile our boss script. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press X out of that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom into my game here. I'm just going to look in front of my player. And I'm going to drag in a boss like so. I'm just going to set him on top of the floor here. And now we can set up our boss. So what am I going to do differently? Well, I want to give him a brand new material as well. I'm going to go into materials and I'm just going to find my enemy material. I'm going to hit Control and D to duplicate that. And I'm going to rename that to m_boss. I'm going to change his color to maybe a nice purple. And then I'm going to drag the material onto the boss itself. I'm going to go into specular color and change that as well. Let's see what works well. Maybe an orange. I change his color a wee bit more. I'll try some other colors. Yeah, yellow and orange looks good. Can alter the shininess if I want, until you get something that you're quite happy with. So if I click on boss here, this is our boss. What we do need to do is we need to remove the enemy script. So we're just going to remove that component. uScript triggers, I'm going to remove that as well. I'm going to click add component, uScript, graphs, and going to choose the boss script. So now this is using the boss script itself. Okay. Now technically we don't really need the boss anymore. We're just going to, tell you what, we'll just leave him there for the time being. And now let's go back into uScript. So we're going to press Control and U. And we're currently inside the boss script. So what are we going to do here? Well, we have this integer here called enemy health. I'm just going to rename this to boss health. Okay. And I was hoping they would all change here, but they haven't. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Control C to copy this. So I'm just going to exit out of my Steam and Skype here. It's a bit distracting. So I've copied my boss health, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace it everywhere where it says enemy health. Have we got any more enemy health here? No, we don't. So what's happening here is every frame we're checking to see what the boss's health is. If it's less than 1, then it will destroy the boss. Over here is if the boss hits a player, then it will remove a player health. Now what we could do in here, if we really wanted to be devastating or mean to the player, we could actually increase this. This is the amount of damage that this current enemy, which is the boss, will do to the player. So if we really want to be mean, we could decrease the player's health by 2. So why not? Let's be mean. Down here is whenever a bullet hits the boss, it will just deduct 1 health. Now what we are going to do is we're going to give the boss lots and lots of health. So click on any boss variable and change the value to say 10 or whatever you want the boss's health to be. So you click that once, you change the value, and it will replicate over all the named variables. Okay, the last thing we need to do is to balance this out, because now he's really mean and nasty, and you may want to balance this by slowing him down. So this guy, this node up here, basically gets the position of our player, converts it into a vector 3, and then it will move the boss to that location of the player using a speed of 2. Now that's the units per second that it will move, so 2 is a quickish value. We can change this to 1, and this will make him move twice as slow. So we're going to file and save that. And really that should be it, folks. This guy should now be set up, so I'm going to hit play. We have our boss. He's moving a lot slower. We're going to hit him once, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now he's dead after 10 shots. Now to test that he is deducting 2 health from our player. So we're going to click our player. We're going to check our player health as we get hit by our boss. So there, he's taken away 2 health. And he's killed us much quicker. Okay. So we know that works quite well. What we need to do now is actually get rid of the boss, and now we need to manipulate our level script so that our boss will now spawn at random, the same way the enemy does around at the 4 boundaries of our game level. So let's go about doing that. We're going to press Ctrl and U for uScript, and this time we're going to open up our level script. And I'm just going to find my level script here, and this is the kind of uScript here, or the graph that we set up for random spawning. So what we're going to do is we're literally just going to copy and paste this. So I'm just going to select the entire thing, hit Control and C, or you can right click and hit copy, and then down a bit I'm going to hit paste. Now oops, that's not good. Now these 2 guys are the same, and you may start to get confused over, you know, which one's which, and you would have to go in and look for the prefab name. What we're going to do is in the corner, we're going to right click and add a comment. And what a comment is, it's just a little rectangular box, but it literally has a comment where we can write what it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this comment enemy spawner. So this is our enemy spawner. And to resize this, all we do is click in the bottom right triangle, and we can make this bigger, like so. We can also do things like change the color of the node and so on. So this just tells us that this little wrapper here is the enemy spawner. We can select the whole thing and move it. It'd be really handy if we could actually select the comment and move everything inside that, but unfortunately we don't have that. Now I'm going to add another comment, or we could just copy that comment and paste it like so. Very handy. Select this comment and just call this boss spawner. So let's just have a look at the boss spawner, what's happening here. So at the start of the graph, it's setting a random float between 1 and 4, and this is basically, this random number is going to be a delay for when the boss spawns. So between 1 and 4 seconds a boss will spawn, then it's going to pick a random switch between 1 and 4, and then this is where we actually get our wall dimensions. So what it'll do is it'll spawn it around a random wall at one time, and that's what gives us our spawner, which does work, which we've done in a few lessons previously. So really the 2 values we need to change is the random float, because we don't want to spawn a boss too often. So we're going to say between let's say 5 and maybe 8 and 15 seconds. And the last thing we need to do is we need to make sure that instead of spawning an enemy, we want to make sure that we spawn the boss instead. So our prefab is called boss. So we just want to replace this with boss. And that is all there is to it, folks. As long as we have the spelling correct and we hit file and save, and that will compile our script. So with that, I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to make sure our boss was deleted in the game view, which it is, or in hierarchy. I'm just going to save my scene as well and click on play. So we just got to wait a while for an enemy to come out. Oh, looks like that's broken again. Let me just quickly look at that. Control and U. It's very annoying. Wall. Very strange. Oh, my walls have been untagged here, so that's what's happening there. I do apologize. Let's fix that. Ooh, that tag. This was something we done in the previous video. Maybe I just didn't save my scene. Alright, I actually think I just Control Z it the last time. Okay, so I'm able to shoot my wall and my bullets break. Or not. Thanks very much. I will fix that. You've already fixed it in your videos. So I'm just waiting for our boss to appear. We will wait very patiently for a yellow boss. So I'm just going to click pause, and we actually have two bosses now with the old materials. I can explain why that's happened very easily. I'm just going to click undo a bit here until we get our boss back in the game. Sorry, I'm just going to drag my boss back into the scene here. Change that to 0. I'm going to give him the boss material, like so. We actually just forgot to apply our boss prefab back over, but no problem. So back to resources. We have the boss material applied, and we're just going to delete the scripts again. Remove that component and remove that component, and we're just going to add our boss script, and then we just need to drag our boss into there just to replace that, and that is it. We can delete our boss and hit play again. Just going to zoom out and wait for a boss to come into play here, and indeed in the corner here we do have a boss. Just going to hit pause and find him, and here's our boss, which should have 10 health. Let's double check, he does have 10 health. I just zoom out and find him. So indeed he does have 10 health, and he's moving a lot slower. Okay guys, that's it for this video. I did say this was going to be the last enemy video, but the next one I promise is the last one. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a bit of material tweaking where we can actually change the material of our enemy when we hit him, just to kind of give you a visual representation of us actually damaging enemies by making the enemy flash. Okay, so with that, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.